and I can tell you that it is a priority of the Secretary and of the Department to do everything we can to reduce that backlog and ultimately to reduce the wait times.
Since the start of the pandemic, there have been reports of U.S. visa delays. However, it was only recently that most embassies reported appointment wait times of more than 500 days. Numerous appointments scheduled for October and November 2022 have been cancelled, according to the website of the U.S. Embassy. This delay is detrimental to both the U.S. government's economy and immigrants. In this video, we will discuss that how United States is blocking millions from traveling to United States.
Visit us at Swat&Vee channel with your questions to see how best we can help you out your process. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel.
Now let's get into the video and find out what's new in U.S. immigration. Due to the low priority given to visitor visa, B1/B2, processing by the U.S. Department of State, an estimated 6.6 million potential visitors will not come to the country in 2023, costing the country $11.6 billion in lost projected spending. For first-time applicants from the top source markets, the wait times for visitor visa interviews now exceed 400 days. This is a significant barrier that is undermining America's global competitiveness and sending millions of potential tourists and billions in traveler spending to other countries. Inbound travel is recognized as an economic priority in the recently released National Travel and Tourism Strategy from the U.S. Department of Commerce, which also establishes a national target of 90 million foreign visitors by 2027. The goals of the Commerce Department are directly at odds with the State Department's lack of urgency on this matter. No one will wait 1 to 2 years to interview with a U.S. government official in order to obtain permission to visit the country, said Freeman. Excessive visa delays are essentially a travel ban. Our most recent study demonstrates that millions of potential tourists will merely select other locations that actively compete for their business. While the U.S. Department of State has made strides in processing other visa categories, like H-2B and student visas, the organization disregards first-time visitors seeking visitor visas. As these visitors make up a sizable portion of U.S. travel exports, it is in the economic interest of the United States for the State Department to expedite interviews. Brazil, India, and Mexico alone could account for more than $5 billion in spending losses by 2023. Strong interest in visiting the United States was found in a recent survey of potential foreign visitors from Brazil, India, and Mexico, who do not already possess a valid U.S. visa. However, the majority said they would probably choose another country to visit if the wait times for visa interviews exceeded a year. 61% of Brazilians, 66% of Indians, and 71% of Mexicans. The U.S. is losing its competitive edge in just Brazil, India, and Mexico for Brazil, $15.6 billion in spending and 3.6 million visitors. 3.5 million tourists spent $13.3 billion in India. 7.1 million tourists visited Mexico, spending $4.1 billion. The U.S. Travel Association has urged the State Department to give the processing of first-time visitor visas economic priority and has provided the agency with several policy recommendations to address this issue. In a recent letter to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, more than 60 members of Congress from both parties echoed the association's urgent calls for a solution. The United States simply cannot afford to turn away billions of dollars in visitor spending, according to Freeman, especially with a recession on the horizon. The Obama administration successfully dealt with a comparable issue, and we urge the Biden administration to follow suit. The Republicans emphasize border security and the removal of migrants who are in the country illegally, while Democrats emphasize paths to legal status for the migrants who are here illegally. According to the Migration Policy Institute, IRCA was designed to be a one-time move that would wipe the slate clean and deploy border security and enforcement to prevent a fresh set of undocumented migrants from replacing the legalized ones. But it didn't work. Approximately 2.7 million undocumented migrants were legalized in the late 1980s and early 1990s, but the employer sanctions and border security provisions were never fully implemented. 10 years after IRCA was enacted, there were 5.8 million undocumented migrants. The Immigration Reform and Control Act, IRCA, of 1986 was able to gain bipartisan support by reconciling these conflicting priorities with a three-legged stool: securing the border and eliminating the job magnet that attracted illegal border crossers, an H-2A temporary worker program to meet agricultural worker needs, and a legalization program that would allow undocumented immigrants who were living and working here to regularize their unlawful status and begin a long process to earn temporary residency and, eventually, permanent residency and citizenship. So is another three-legged stool agreement possible? We don't think Republicans want legalization or the other measures Democrats include in their immigration reform bills, but the fact that they supported IRCA indicates that they were willing then to accept such measures in exchange for substantial improvements in border security and interior enforcement, and the need for such a deal is greater now. Biden has released more than 1 million undocumented migrants into the country already, and there are 2 years left in his presidency. I think the Republicans are ready to do almost anything to stop this tsunami of illegal crossings. But do the Democrats really want comprehensive immigration reform? They could have passed comprehensive immigration reform without a single Republican vote when Obama was president. From January 2009 to January 2011, they held the majority in the House, and until Scott Brown's special election in 2010, they had enough votes in the Senate to stop a Republican filibuster. They chose not to do it. And why do they introduce bills that are virtually certain to be unacceptable to Republicans? The American Dream and Promise Act of 2021 provides a good example. It would make legalization available to migrants who have been physically present in the United States continuously since January 1, 2021, and were under the age of 19 when they entered the United States. Approximately 2.7 million undocumented migrants would be able to meet this age at entry requirement. They also included provisions that would make lawful status available to 393,000 temporary protected status or deferred enforced departure participants, and 190,000 legal dreamers. Why didn't they make the bill more attractive to Republicans by limiting it to a DREAM Act for migrants who were brought here when they were very young and consequently know no country other than the United States? The Republican support they needed for such a bill was available. A Pew Research Center poll indicates that 54% of the Republicans support legalization for immigrants who were brought here illegally as children. And why didn't Democrats include any border security provisions? Republican Senator Chuck Grassley has said that, if we want to provide legal status for dreamers, we must secure our border, so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation again, 20 or 30 years from now. Comprehensive immigration reform may not be possible, but a DREAM Act should be. First, limit the program to migrants who were brought here by their parents when they were very young. Second, the DREAM Acts the Democrats have been introducing would make it possible for participants to confer legal status on the parents who brought them here illegally, which would reward parents for making a DREAM Act necessary. Former President Donald Trump addressed this issue when he proposed a legalization program for DACA participants by requiring an end to chain migration. A more reasonable approach would be to create a place for the migrants in the Special Immigrant Juvenile (SIJ) program. Dreamers don't fit in that program as it exists now, but it could be changed to include them. The SHIJ program makes lawful permanent resident status available to undocumented migrant children in the United States who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected by one or both parents and therefore should not be returned to their own countries. It also prevents the parents who mistreated these children from using them to legalize their own status. Third, include substantial statutory enforcement and border security provisions, and find a way to ensure that the administration will not ignore them. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is carrying out the administration's current enforcement policies which ignore the statutory deportation grounds. He expressed the essence of these policies when he said, "The fact an individual is a removable non-citizen therefore should not alone be the basis of an enforcement action against them."
I hope you guys found this video extremely helpful. If you know anybody that could benefit from this information, definitely make sure to share this video with them. We are all about empowering you with knowledge. So the more people that can benefit from this video, the more people we want watching this video. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that thumbs icon. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and hit on the notification bell for more immigration updates. Bye!